Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another shop talk video, and today's topic is going to be some of the dumbest engineering that I've seen in a tensioner design up to date. This is probably like the worst one that I've had, so I just felt I needed to make a video and kind of explain the situation and how, as you can say, great of engineering fail this design is. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin on today's topic. But before we do so, if you guys haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button down below and definitely smash that like button because it helps the channel out. With that said, let's go ahead and get started on today's topic. So I had a customer call me about a week or two ago, and they told me that their car has a battery light on, and that's all they could really tell me because they couldn't really see what was going on. Now, the vehicle that we have in question was a 2007 Lexus ES 350. It's a 3.5 liter V6. And the way that the engine is set up in the vehicle is there's a lot of plastic cladding and everything covering the engine, so you can't really see much of anything. So the customer brought in the vehicle. He tried driving it, it wound up dying, and then he got it towed in. And upon my inspection, I saw that the belt had flung off. And digging a little bit deeper into it, I saw that his alternator was on a wobble, and this tensioner assembly had basically no spring tension to it. It pretty much barely held the belt on there. It was very, very weak. So I recommended to the customer that he needed to replace the alternator and replace the tensioner, which to my surprise, when I estimated it out, I was like, there's no way this thing costs that much. So I did a little bit more research, and sure enough, guys, I mean, this thing is one horrible design, and due to the fact that this is horribly designed, winds up costing you a lot more money if you own one of these cars, because the engineers couldn't quite do it right. Now, most tensioner assemblies consist of one bolt up to the block, has a little pin that'll hold to keep it from moving, and it's pretty simple. Most cars out there, a tensioner, about an hour worth of labor. This particular tensioner will basically run you about 5 or 6 hours of labor, if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere up there. I don't know the exact figure because it's been about 2 weeks since I did this job. And the reason why this is such a horrible design, if you look at the design of this, it almost looks like it bolts up to an engine like a bracket, which is exactly what it does. So this will typically sit in your engine bay, and the way I believe it's set in there, if I'm not mistaken, is like this. Now, this would be the front of the engine, and clearly it gets bolted up to the side. We have 1, 2, 3 bolts that are up here. Now, these bottom bolts here, if you kind of look at it, it looks like a cradle. Well, that's because the AC compressor gets bolted up to these little holes right there, and then this is basically right behind the compressor. So in order to get this off the engine, you have to remove the alternator, which, given we were already going to be replacing it because we had an issue with it. Now, this car came in because it flung a belt, but the alternator was basically, hard to spin, and that could have been a result because this was not providing tension for, whoever knows how long. But anyway, we were taking off the alternator no matter what. And the 3 bolts that you see here are behind the alternator, but these 2 bottom ones require the AC compressor to come out. And let me tell you this, you can sneak it out without evacuating the system and removing the compressor in total with the lines. That's what I did to try to save labor time. What I did was I just unbolted the compressor, pulled it out, and tried to get it out of there. And let me tell you guys, it is a disaster. Even though I did it that way, I was committed to it. But I just wanted to give up and evacuate the system, remove the compressor out of the equation. Because with the compressor being there hanging on a bungee cord, I could barely gain access to tighten all this. But in the end, I pushed through and I was able to do it. But for me, the biggest thing is, why do we need such a complicated design? A tensioner, especially something like this, they go bad quite often. Now, if it's not this part that's bad, and you guys can hear it, the bearing in here is shot. But the actual spring on the arm is actually very weak as well. I don't know if I'm able to do it here because it's not on the vise, but if this is viced up pretty good, it just takes a little bit of force and you should be able to, move this up and down. That's how weak the spring in here has gotten throughout the years. So this thing is bad, and I replace tensioners here quite often. I'm used to more of the traditional style where it's just like an arm with 1 bolt and a pin. But this to me just seems redundant. Almost as if they want you to take it to a Lexus dealer, because even me knowing, or I guess I should say not knowing that it was this design, but then looking it up and realizing it was a little complicated. After I got into it, I was at a point where I almost wanted to give up on it, and that's not something I do quite often. If I open up a job, I'm gonna finish it. But this thing had me to the brink of just giving up. Now, unfortunately, I don't have I guess you can say the opportunity to be able to quit on it, because once I open it, I gotta finish it. I mean, obviously, I'm a small independent garage. I do everything, so there's no chance that I can do it or not be able to do it. It has to get done. So I pushed through it and I got it done, but it was just a big pain. Engineering is just nuts nowadays. I don't know what Lexus Toyota was thinking on these, but if you guys have a 3.5 liter engine, this is probably the worst thing you can do on it. With the engine inside the car, I mean, it's so cramped, and this is just unnecessary. It's just a bunch of crap the way they designed this. I mean, just look at this thing. It's bulky. It's obnoxious. It just shouldn't be designed this way. I wish these engineers were a little bit more for thinking about the consumer, their wallet, and even the mechanics that have to service these vehicles, because this right here, I mean, it's not productive. Like, they could have probably designed it a million other ways. I understand that it has to bolt up and be secure, but it's just redundant. There's 6 bolts holding this in place. It's just a little bit excessive to me. You don't really need that type of holding power for a tensioner. So, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But either way, I wanted to make this shop talk video just to show you this complete engineering disaster that Toyota Lexus uses on the 3.5 liter engines, and just kind of give you guys an overview and explain that engineering right now is it's chaotic. It's ridiculous how car manufacturers are making these things and how complicated they are, almost as if they want you to take it to the dealer so they could work on it and charge you a bunch of money. Because this thing at a dealer alone, it's pretty pricey. Labor's pricey, even the part. The new tensioner assembly was like $350 if I recall correctly. That's a lot pricier than your standard $100 tensioner you could go to a parts store and get. Even at a parts store aftermarket, it was still pretty pricey, around $250, almost the price of an original one. So we just went with an original. That's what the customer chose. But overall, guys, just want to share this with you. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Definitely helps the channel grow. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.